thought he was about to make headlines. Kash Patel walked into that hearing room like a man on a mission, chin high, papers in hand, ready to educate a congresswoman on the Constitution. Cameras were rolling, mics were hot, and the energy in that chamber thick enough to slice through. He smirked, leaned in, and said it, "You're twisting the law." The kind of line designed for a soundbite, the kind of jab meant to trend. What Patel didn't know was that he had just lit the fuse on his own public takedown. The room went quiet for a half second, that kind of silence that carries weight. And on the other side of the table, Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. No eye roll, no frown, just that calm, razor-sharp look that says, "I've been waiting for this." Because while Patel came in with talking points, she came in with something else, legal firepower. You could feel it building, slow zoom on her face, heartbeat sound under the clip, the tension climbing. Everyone watching knew something was coming, they just didn't know how hard it would hit. Patel thought this was going to be a teachable moment. Turns out he was right, but he was the one getting schooled. That's the thing about these hearings. They're never just about what's said. They're about who actually understands what's being said. Patel came loaded with confidence, but Crockett, she came loaded with case law, precedent, and constitutional clarity. You could see it in her eyes. She wasn't going to match his volume. She was going to dismantle his logic piece by piece. That's how real lawyers move. Quiet, calculated, controlled. As Patel kept pressing, trying to force a point, the air in the room began to shift. Even the committee members sitting behind him started to glance over, waiting for her response. She adjusted her mic, leaned in just slightly, and that's when the balance of power changed. You could almost hear it, the moment when someone realizes they've picked the wrong fight. Patel was trying to make it emotional, throwing words like manipulating and twisting to make it sound bigger than it was. But Crockett didn't bite. She didn't need to, because when you're standing on constitutional ground, you don't argue, you clarify. And that's exactly what she was about to do. Now here's what makes this moment legendary. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. No shouting, no theatrics, just precision. She started breaking down the accusation, calmly, confidently, turning every claim into a self-own. The audience couldn't look away. The analysts watching from home couldn't believe what they were hearing. Patel was being deconstructed live in real time by the very thing he thought he understood best, the law. And as she laid out the facts, the room started shifting again, from confrontation to comprehension. You could feel it in the air. Even people on Patel's side of the aisle were nodding, because when truth is that clear, it doesn't care which side you're on. It just lands hard. She took his phrase, twisting the law, and flipped it right back on him. If you're going to talk about the Constitution, she implied through every syllable, then let's talk about all of it, not just the parts that fit your agenda. And that's when it happened, that realization moment. Patel's face dropped. His confidence cracked just a little. The smirk was gone. The people watching live started sharing clips online before the exchange was even over. Tweets, memes, captions like, "She cooked him with constitutional clarity." The algorithm didn't need time. It saw engagement instantly. Because viewers could feel it, that mix of power, intellect, and calm dominance, the kind of moment that defines an entire career. This wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a reminder. If you're going to accuse someone of twisting the law, you better have actually read it first. Patel didn't just lose the argument, he lost the illusion of control. And here's where the real curiosity kicks in, because just when everyone thought it was over, just when they assumed Crockett had said her piece, she leaned back, paused, and set up something even bigger. You could see it in her eyes, that glint that said, "I'm not done." She was about to pull the rug out from under the entire exchange, not just on politics, but on principle. That's the part people still talk about, the build-up, the reversal, the realization that this wasn't just about one accusation. It was about exposing the way some try to weaponize the Constitution itself. Crockett didn't just defend herself, she defended the document. And in that moment, the Constitution wasn't a piece of paper. It was a sword, and she knew exactly how to wield it. So when people say she destroyed him, it wasn't hyperbole. It was a masterclass, a quiet, intellectual knockout. And if you think that was the end of it, you're wrong, because what she said next didn't just silence Patel. It sent shockwaves through every commentator watching that day. The next few seconds would change how that entire debate was remembered. And trust me, you're going to want to see what came next. He thought he had her cornered. That's how it always starts, right? Someone walks in thinking they've cracked the code, that they can turn a legal debate into a headline moment. Cash Patel came in with that exact swagger, a man convinced he had found Jasmine Crockett's weak spot. But what he didn't realize was that every word he was about to say had already been taken apart, analyzed, and neutralized before he even opened his mouth. See, Patel's move wasn't random. It was planned, rehearsed, the kind of setup meant to sound like a gotcha moment. He wanted that viral soundbite, the line that makes the rounds on X, the clip that gets replayed on every conservative podcast by morning. But instead of going viral for a win, it went viral as a warning. Never underestimate someone who actually knows the law. The tone in the room shifted as he spoke. You could feel it, that subtle arrogance, the way his words stretched, like he was talking at her, not to her. His supporters nodded behind him. Cameras zoomed in. Everyone thought, okay, here it comes, he's setting her up. What they didn't see coming was the trap he was setting for himself. Because while Patel was focused on performance, Jasmine Crockett was focused on precision. And in law, precision always wins. She didn't jump in immediately. She let him keep talking, like a chess player letting an opponent move just enough pieces to walk right into checkmate. Patel thought he was exposing her, that he'd cornered her on interpretation. But that's where the genius kicked in. While he was trying to spin the narrative, she was building the counter-argument brick by brick. She was quiet, too quiet, and that silence, that was the sound of the trap being set. The power of that moment wasn't just in the words, it was in the dynamic. He was loud, she was calm. He wanted attention, she wanted accuracy. Patel's voice had that smug energy, that courtroom showmanship that plays well for cameras. But Crockett's face said it all. She was about to dismantle him using the very document he claimed she was twisting. And once she started speaking, every person in that room and every person watching online knew the temperature had changed. He tried to drag her into political argument territory, throwing in buzzwords, twisting clauses, using half-quotes from cases that sounded smart but weren't complete. She didn't bite. Instead, she went line by line, not just explaining what the law said, but what it meant. She cited the intent, the precedent, and the constitutional framing. This wasn't debate club anymore. It was court. She brought case law.
And the wild part? She didn't even need notes. While Patel flipped through papers looking for his next point, Crockett was pulling citations from memory. That's when you could see it hit him, the realization. He was in over his head. This wasn't a politician trying to win sound bites. This was a lawyer teaching a live masterclass in constitutional interpretation, and his accusation was quickly turning into Exhibit A for why you don't fake expertise. Now here's where it got interesting. Crockett didn't just defend herself, she exposed the setup itself. She called out how Patel's argument wasn't about the law at all. It was about framing, twisting legal language to make policy sound like corruption. And once she laid that out, the whole room started to see it too. You could see heads turning, people whispering, the kind of murmurs that happen when someone realizes they've been watching a performance, not an argument. And then she flipped it. She said, in essence, if you want to talk about twisting, let's talk about how you've been bending the Constitution for political theater. That's when the atmosphere changed completely. It wasn't just Crockett defending herself anymore. She was prosecuting the game itself. The line between questioner and questioned disappeared, and Patel was the one suddenly justifying his own words. What makes this sequence so gripping isn't just the law, it's the psychology. Patel believed he was steering the conversation, but Crockett was controlling the rhythm. Every time he thought he'd landed a point, she let it breathe, then calmly unraveled it with surgical precision. That's the kind of control that only comes from knowing your craft inside and out. She didn't overpower him, she outclassed him. Social media caught it instantly. Clips labeled, "She cooked him legally. This is how you handle gaslighting with facts," started trending within hours. Commentators on both sides admitted it. That moment exposed more than a misunderstanding. It exposed the difference between talking law and knowing law. And that difference, right there, is why Crockett's voice carried weight long after Patel's moment faded. And just when it looked like the exchange had reached its peak, when the audience thought she'd made her point and moved on, she did something unexpected. She reached for the Constitution itself. Not a summary, not a quote from memory, the actual text. She flipped it open and the entire room went still. The energy changed from argument to education, from defense to demonstration. Even Patel's own supporters went quiet. You could see the shift in his eyes, that split second when confidence meets consequence. Because in that moment, everyone knew he wasn't debating anymore. He was being shown what the law actually says in black and white. And here's the kicker, that wasn't even her final point. The moment she closed that Constitution, the entire dynamic flipped for good. What she said next didn't just silence him, it changed how people saw the debate itself. And trust me, once you hear that moment, you'll understand why they're calling it the legal breakdown heard across the nation. This is the part that broke the internet. The moment where Jasmine Crockett turned a courtroom hearing into a constitutional masterclass. Cameras were rolling. Patel was still trying to recover from his failed setup. And then, boom, she started. Calm tone, steady pace, eyes locked forward. This wasn't emotion. This was surgical precision. She was about to take his entire argument and turn it into confetti, line by line, clause by clause. What viewers didn't realize at first was that they were about to witness one of the cleanest takedowns in congressional hearing history. Patel had come in swinging heavy on buzzwords. You're twisting the statute, manipulating interpretation, cherry-picking the Constitution. It sounded rehearsed, all the right political noise. But Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't cut him off. She just waited. And when she spoke, it was like flipping open the law textbook Patel should have read before showing up. She started with his first claim, the statute he quoted out of context. "Let's actually read that section," she said, tone steady like a teacher about to hand back a failed test. She pointed directly to the clause Patel misused. On-screen graphics flashed, Article 2, Section 3. And then she explained what it actually meant, calmly, factually, unshakably. The audience leaned in. You could see Patel blink twice, that nervous tell people get when the crowd isn't with them anymore. Then she moved to the next point. Patel had tossed in a constitutional amendment like a weapon, trying to make her sound uninformed. Crockett didn't just counter it, she turned it into evidence against him. She quoted precedent, referenced 2 cases by name, and explained how both decisions directly contradicted Patel's argument. No shouting, no sarcasm, just cold, clean accuracy. And the tone of the room changed completely. People watching online started typing in all caps, "She's cooking him live. This is a legal beatdown." Commentators later called it the moment intellect beat outrage, because every time Patel tried to interrupt or deflect, she'd pause, let him finish, then calmly bring it right back to the facts. Every rebuttal she gave made his confidence shrink. What made it so powerful wasn't just what she said, but how effortlessly she said it. It didn't sound rehearsed, it sounded lived. That's the mark of someone who doesn't just know the law, but understands its rhythm. She spoke like someone who's argued real cases, not headlines. Every word landed like a strike, but none of it felt aggressive. It felt inevitable. Patel tried to pivot, pulling out another sheet, reading a line meant to look impressive. But by then, the crowd had switched sides. When Crockett leaned in and replied, "If we're quoting precedent, let's quote it correctly," you could feel the tension explode. The entire room froze. A few people behind Patel glanced down, pretending to check notes. Even the cameraman zoomed tighter. Everyone knew they were capturing something special. She kept going, 3 points, 4 points, 5, each building momentum. The graphics on screen flipped between Patel's claim and Crockett's rebuttal. It wasn't even a debate anymore, it was a dissection. When she reached her final point, she didn't just prove him wrong, she made it clear why his entire framing didn't hold up. If we're going to talk about what the Constitution allows, then let's start by actually reading it, all of it. That line hit like a hammer. The phrase spread across social media before the hearing even ended. And then came the silence. Patel leaned back, adjusted his mic, eyes starting. You could see him searching for a comeback that wasn't there. That silence wasn't just awkward, it was heavy. Because in that moment, everyone understood what they just watched. It wasn't a clapback, it wasn't political theater, it was education, real, raw, undeniable. Legal analysts later called that sequence a constitutional takedown. One even said she turned Article 2 into a weapon. And they weren't wrong. She showed how the Constitution, when understood and wielded properly, can expose every trick used to bend it. It was like watching someone dismantle a puzzle from the inside out. The beauty of it all, she never once looked smug. No grin, no gloat, just that calm, unshaken demeanor that says, "I don't need to prove I'm right, the law already did." That composure made the destruction even more poetic, because when someone beats you without breaking a sweat, it stings harder. Clips flooded TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. Hashtags like legal firepower and Crockett versus Patel started trending. Edits appeared with dramatic music, freeze frames on Patel's expression when he realized he was done. Even people who didn't follow politics watched the clip just to see how someone could dismantle an argument so flawlessly.
And yet, the moment that really made people lean forward wasn't the breakdown itself, it was what came right after. Because just when everyone thought she'd finished, Crockett looked up from her notes and said something that changed the tone entirely. The law part was done, but the message part, that was still coming. She was about to go from legal precision to personal truth, from dismantling a lie to exposing the motive behind it. And that next moment, what she said next, hit way deeper than any case citation ever could. It wasn't just law anymore, it was accountability, and it left the room stunned in a way no legal argument ever had before. Because when a debate stops being about politics and starts being about principle, that's when history gets made. And trust me, you haven't seen the full impact yet. What came next didn't just end the argument, it changed the conversation nationwide. Man, you could feel it in the room, the kind of energy that makes you lean in, even if you weren't supposed to be paying attention. Patel came in swinging like he was the smartest guy in the room, tossing accusations and acting like he had the inside track on the law.
But Crockett, she didn't just shut him down with legal firepower. Nah, she went deeper. She exposed why he said it in the first place. She flipped the whole script on him, and you could literally see it in his eyes, that moment when confidence meets reality, and reality doesn't back down. Patel's words had been sharp, meant to sting, meant to go viral. "You're twisting the law." That line was crafted to sound like a gotcha. He was counting on spectacle, on shock, on that instant reaction clip to circulate online. But Crockett wasn't interested in playing that game. She leaned back, took a breath, and started connecting dots nobody expected her to connect. She didn't just address the claim, she connected it to the bigger pattern of political manipulation, the kind where law gets twisted not for justice, but for clout, for talking points, for headlines. You could almost feel the shift in the air. People watching online started noticing too. Flashbacks of other debates popped in the visuals, politicians trying the same stunt, overconfident, thinking they'd corner someone smart, and failing spectacularly. TikTok stitches, reaction clips from committee staffers and legal commentators, all showing Patel's realization building like a slow burn. It was like the nation itself was leaning forward, collectively saying, "Wait, what's happening here?" She started breaking it down, calmly, surgically, pointing out that what Patel called a legal analysis was really just political theater disguised as expertise. Every statement he made, she traced back to the real law and showed exactly how it had been misread or misapplied. It was one thing to win a debate with facts, but Crockett was doing something else. She was teaching a master class on truth in public office. Every viewer could feel it, even those who weren't lawyers. Her voice stayed steady, calm, and unshakable, but the words hit like a sledgehammer. The room went quiet, people shifted in their seats. Even Patel's supporters leaned back, suddenly unsure of how to react. Crockett's approach wasn't about theatrics, it wasn't about scoring points. It was about accountability, showing why every claim, every twist of language mattered beyond just the hearing. And then she pivoted in a way that no one saw coming. She brought it home. She connected Patel's specific accusation to a bigger story, the pattern of using law as a weapon for political gain. She reminded the room that this wasn't a one-off argument. This was a method, a style, one that had been used repeatedly to create sound bites, stir controversy, and manipulate public perception. The realization hit hard. Patel wasn't just wrong. He had been exposed as part of a broader tactic that exploited the law for headlines. Her facial expression didn't change much, but the power behind her words amplified everything. You could see Patel squirm, blink, and glance sideways. The confidence he had walked in with was slipping, inch by inch, under the weight of truth. Every quote she delivered, every precedent she cited, underscored that this wasn't about politics anymore. It was exposing manipulation and showing the real consequences of twisting the law for personal gain. And then she dropped it, that one sentence that froze the room. No dramatic pause, no shouting, just a line, precise, unavoidable. She made it personal without being mean. She made it undeniable without being flashy. And in that single moment, everyone in the room, from committee members to staffers to journalists, knew the dynamic had completely flipped. Patel was no longer the one controlling the conversation. He was reacting, and Crockett had total control. That sentence rippled instantly online. Clips started circulating with captions like, "She read him for filth without raising her voice," and "Legal truth just demolished political theater." People shared it not just because it was entertaining, but because it was a lesson, a reminder that when law meets truth, overconfidence doesn't stand a chance. By the time she finished, the energy in the room had completely shifted. It wasn't just about Crockett proving him wrong anymore. It was about showing the difference between talking law for attention and knowing the law for impact. It was education and accountability wrapped into one powerful moment, and the entire country felt it. And just when you think it couldn't get more intense, that sentence, that line, set the stage for what came next. A demonstration so precise, so surgical, that it wasn't just Patel who was left speechless. It was everyone watching, realizing that the rest of this hearing was about to become something historic, something unforgettable, something that would make you sit at the edge of your seat and say, "I can't believe this is happening live." Man, it all came down to one sentence, one line. No shouting, no fake theatrics, no dramatic gasps for effect. Just pure, unfiltered reality landing like a brick in a quiet room. You could almost hear the air change. Patel had been talking big all morning, tossing words like he owned the hearing, confidence dripping from every syllable. But then Crockett spoke, calm, steady, and in that single moment, it was like someone hit pause on the entire room. She didn't need to yell. She didn't need to flex. All she did was state the truth, sharp, precise, undeniable. The words cut through the political noise like a laser. Cameras zoomed in on Patel's face, and you could see it happen in real time. The realization, the blink, the tiny shift in his posture that said, "Oh crap, I didn't see this coming." The energy in the room shifted instantly. Committee members froze mid-note, staffers leaned forward, journalists raised their eyebrows. That's when you knew the debate wasn't just paused, it was over. Slow motion replay of her line makes it hit even harder. The echo, the cinematic tension, the subtle expressions on everyone's faces. It amplified what just happened. Social media lit up immediately. Clips went viral with captions like, "She snapped him into reality," "Legal firepower like you've never seen," and "One sentence, total shutdown." Everyone watching got chills, even people who didn't follow politics. That's the kind of moment that spreads like wildfire because it's real, it's raw, and it's impossible to ignore. Crockett's line wasn't just about winning the argument, it was about exposing the pretense behind it, showing that all the loud rhetoric, all the posturing, all the attempts to manipulate the law for political points, it didn't matter. When truth hits, nothing else stands. That's why the room went silent, and in that silence, respect filled the air. Not just from Democrats, not just from independents, even some of Patel's own supporters could see it. You could feel it in the pause, in the tiny head nods, in the subtle shifts of acknowledgement. This wasn't performance. This was mastery.
The impact didn't stop at the hearing. Clips exploded online. Tweets started trending in real time. Commentators broke down every word, every citation, every nuance. Legal analysts praised her poise, her calm authority, the surgical precision of her delivery. Conservative and liberal voices alike admitted it. She had just delivered a textbook example of how legal expertise trumps political theatrics every single time. And while the room itself was frozen in that moment, the fallout outside, oh, that was even louder. News segments replayed her line endlessly. TikTok stitched it over and over. People shared the clip with friends, families, coworkers. Even late-night hosts couldn't resist highlighting it. The entire country, watching together, saw how a single sentence could dismantle hours of political posturing. But it wasn't just the spectacle. The moment became a lesson, a masterclass in how preparation, intellect, and calm authority can dominate even the loudest, most confident opponents. Patel had relied on theatrics, on assumed superiority, on the idea that volume and repetition equal credibility. Crockett proved them all wrong. She showed that the law, applied with precision and integrity, doesn't just answer questions, it silences false bravado and commands respect. As the clip circulated, the message became clear. Confidence isn't enough when it's not backed by expertise. And in that one moment, the entire political world got a front-row seat to the difference between talking about the law and knowing the law. That's why the sentence resonated so hard. It was more than a rebuttal. It was a declaration, a reality check, and a reminder that truth and preparation always speak louder than performance.
And just when people thought the story had peaked, that sentence set the stage for the next wave, the aftermath, the viral discussions, the legal and political debates that would dominate social media for days. Because the room wasn't just silenced for a moment, the impact reverberated far beyond it, leaving Patel scrambling, the audience captivated, and the nation wondering, how do you even come back from a shutdown like that? That one sentence didn't just end the argument, it rewrote the rules of engagement, turned a hearing into a historic moment, and proved to everyone watching that when legal firepower meets political bravado, only one thing wins: truth. Yo, by the time that clip hit X and TikTok, it wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a full-on legal masterclass. People weren't just watching, they were taking notes. News feeds exploded with reactions. Legal analysts were breaking it down line by line, calling it a lesson in constitutional clarity, a surgical dismantling of political theater, and textbook-level shutdown. The energy online was insane. Every clip, every stitch, every reaction clip was buzzing. People couldn't get enough. Crockett walked out of that hearing room like she owned the floor. Calm, composed, not a hint of arrogance, just that quiet confidence you feel when someone knows they've changed the conversation forever. The cameras caught it, the clips showed it, and while she moved on, the ripple effect of that one hearing didn't. Patel, not so much. He avoided the press, his usual combative tone nowhere to be found. You could literally see him recalibrating, trying to figure out how he just got schooled in front of the entire country. The montage of reactions tells the story. Anchors replayed the clip like it was front-page news. One tweet read, "That was a Harvard Law masterclass on live TV." Even conservative legal commentators had to admit it. She wasn't just right, she was untouchable in that moment. Social media picked it up instantly. Short clips went viral, stitched with dramatic music, freeze frames of Patel blinking, and captions reading, "Legal firepower." It was everywhere. Everyone watching felt the weight of it. That moment when truth meets preparation and there's literally nothing left to argue. What made it even more striking was how Crockett didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't shout, she didn't gesture wildly. She raised the standard. Her calm authority, combined with precise citations and real constitutional knowledge, made it obvious. This wasn't political theater. This was accountability. This was a real lawyer, one trained in the toughest courts, showing exactly why expertise matters when the stakes are high. Every reaction, every replay underscored the same truth. Preparation beats performance, intellect beats volume, and knowledge beats posturing every single time. The clip spread like wildfire. Viewers dissected it in forums, threads, and group chats. Lawyers shared it with their colleagues as an example of perfect public legal advocacy. Students sent it to professors as proof that constitutional analysis could be exciting and impactful outside textbooks. And the politicians? They couldn't ignore it. Democratic staffers were celebrating, Republican strategists were scrambling, and Patel was left trying to figure out how to respond to a performance he never expected to be dismantled so cleanly. It wasn't just the reactions that mattered. The clip changed the narrative. Overnight, it became less about the hearing itself and more about what Crockett represented: disciplined preparation, deep legal expertise, and the ability to turn even the most aggressive political attack into a demonstration of law in action. The lesson was clear. When legal firepower meets political overconfidence, one thing wins every time: fact, precision, and truth. And just when viewers thought they'd seen it all, Crockett's exit sealed the impact. Calmly walking away, folders in hand, her face unreadable but composed, the shot lingered. It wasn't just a mic drop moment. It was the closing statement of a day that would be studied and shared for years to come. The final frame faded into the text, "Legal firepower." That was it. Simple, bold, unforgettable. The clip's virality also showed a new kind of audience engagement. People weren't just watching, they were learning. They were talking about constitutional principles, prosecutorial independence, and the weight of precedent, all because one person decided to handle a political challenge with legal precision instead of drama. Even casual viewers could feel the difference. The stakes felt higher, the argument felt real, and the lesson, legal mastery, when executed perfectly, doesn't just win, it goes nuclear. By the time the social media storm settled, the narrative was set. Crockett had proven a point that went beyond any single hearing. Preparation, knowledge, and composure aren't just tools, they're weapons. And when wielded correctly, they command respect, silence overconfidence, and make history. The room might have emptied, the hearing might have ended, but the impact, that was still rolling, echoing across feeds, newsrooms, and discussions nationwide. And for everyone watching, one thing was crystal clear. Legal firepower doesn't just win debates, it changes the game.